Morning, everybody. So I've been at eBay for about 10 years in a variety of different analytics roles, and currently I serve as the Senior Director of Technology and Product Analytics. And unfortunately, I've got some bad news for everyone today. It pains me to deliver this. Everyone seems so nice, such a great crowd. But the bad news, the humbling news is our customers are smarter than us. And that's a tough pill to swallow, but something that I've learned is true over the years. The good news, the silver lining in it, is they're willing to help us. And the reason I'm here to talk about analytics is it's one of the ways that we can learn to listen to our customers, to listen to them, to enable them to help us to be better. So first off, I'll talk a little bit about what analytics is and what it isn't. So first off, I want to clarify, analytics and big data are not the same thing. And this is important because I often hear that there's a reluctance to get started in analytics because we don't have the right big data solution in place. And while big data can certainly empower a lot of interesting analytics and a lot of great product, and I'll talk through some examples on that side, but I want to make it really clear, you can get started with whatever you have today. The right mindset, the right culture, an Excel spreadsheet, and you can get off to the races. So big data, analytics, not the same thing. That said, big data has been huge for us at eBay, and we'll talk through some specific examples. But when I started at eBay 10 years ago, we threw away a lot of our data. All of our user behavioral data, when users came to the site, all the click data, every page that we served up, we typically threw it away. And today we capture all of that. And big data has empowered us to do that. The storage costs have come down. The processing is now computationally feasible to process that data, to access it. And it powers a lot of great things in analytics, and we'll talk through some of the examples in a bit. So what is analytics then? So for me, analytics is really around 4 pillars. I'd say first it's problem framing, making sure that you're focused on the right thing. So just to kind of give this a little bit more life, I'll give you an example. So let's say that something is going on in the mobile part of your business. And if you have the wrong approach, you might just say, well, let's just focus on the product. Maybe it's just the product, and we'll dig in and kind of boil the ocean there. Whereas if you have the right framing up for the problem, you might open the aperture and look at the impact of marketing spend and programs. Maybe you're sending different types of traffic through your product. So analytics is problem solving. It's being able to frame up the problem in the right way. The second big pillar for analytics is efficient use of data. So it's important to be timely, to stay relevant, to be agile, to help the organization move quickly. So don't over-engineer a solution for analytics to answer the problem. You might miss out on being relevant to your business partners and to driving the business forward. So the third piece is actionable insight. So that's important because if you're trying to, if a great insight comes out of the analytics team and it doesn't change the course of the business, if we don't make a decision based on that, we're not really maximizing the value from that function, from that capability. And then the fourth pillar is around building a culture of continuous learning. So it's really important in building out an analytics culture to not just focus on solving for one insight, for one decision point at one point in time. You want to build on that. You want to continue stacking insights on top of insights, and that's really when analytics delivers its maximum value and promise. And we'll talk through some examples from eBay's history to help illustrate how we kind of stacked some insights and helped change the course of the product development. So before I get into some examples, I want to just try to illustrate this. So if you can't see the picture very well, it's a shower head with a kind of a schematic of the piping and the plumbing behind it. And the point here is really, don't just focus on the revenue tab. Don't just focus on the shower head and the water coming out at the end. If you want to understand how to drive more revenue, if you want to understand what makes the water come out, you'll need to understand a little bit more about the plumbing and the infrastructure behind it. So think of analytics as a way to open up that black box and dig in and understand what drives that. So if you just focused on the shower head, let's say the water stopped coming out, you might think, okay, maybe I just need to replace the shower head. Maybe it's just a broken nozzle. But if you understand how the whole system works together, you can understand what other levers you might have available to you to continue to drive. All right, so now let's talk through some examples from eBay. So over the years, we've done quite a bit of work. And I'll focus on one particular problem space, something that I've been engaged in over the years. So usability. We got a ton of feedback over the years that our product is difficult to use. It's hard for users to find what they want. There's a ton of inventory on our platform, and users want it to be easier to get to the items that they want to buy, to make that purchase decision. So fortunately for us, we realized that leveraging our data and leveraging analytics can help us to solve that issue. So partnering between product and analytics, we did a bunch of work, and we'll talk through some of these examples. So one of the first examples, and I'll kind of explain what we've got here, was in our search experience. So first off, what we've got is two different versions of our search results page. And for those of you who haven't used the platform, this is basically you come onto eBay, you're looking to buy a Nintendo Wii, you type in Nintendo Wii, and then you're shown all of the different Wiis that are available on the site. So that's our search results page. We have two different versions here. There was a hypothesis that smaller images might actually help our users, because if they had smaller images on the page, they could see more Wiis at one time. They wouldn't have to scroll around. The page might load a little bit faster. They might see a little bit more breadth of inventory. And that was a really interesting hypothesis. So without analytics, how would we make that decision? Would we ask the highest paid person's opinion? Would we take a vote? We could survey our customers, but as you can kind of tell, it's a very subtle difference. It's probably not, most people would take a little while to even notice the difference between these two pages. And this is where analytics is super powerful. So one of the toolkits, one of the tools in our analytics toolkit is experimentation. And what we did was we ran a test. And we showed people on, one group of people, we showed this experience on the left-hand side with the standard size images, where you see about 5 images on the page, 5 listings. And then we ran another group where we showed the other experience with the slightly smaller images. And you can see just a few more listings on the page. And what we did was we ran this and basically used our data to ask our customers what they thought effectively. So we pulled back a bunch of data, and here's what we saw. So we captured a bunch of behavioral data, and we also looked at purchase activity. So for the group that saw the smaller images, some of the behavioral data that we look at is the time to the first click. So we basically have a stopwatch. When the page first loads, we start a stopwatch and we stop it as soon as they click into an item. That's our time to first click. And we saw that people clicked in more quickly. Then we also look at the percentage of users who are searching who end up clicking into an item. And we also saw that more people were clicking in. So pretty interesting behavioral insight. Wouldn't have picked that out through a survey, through asking internally people what they would want. So this type of insight only possible through analytics. And in many cases, a lot of companies' search engines will optimize on those first two metrics alone. Relevance is a great way to optimize for relevance. But we also have, because we're we can also look at purchase activity. So for us, the kind of ultimate litmus test is it easier for people to buy stuff? Do they buy more things? And in this specific example with the smaller images, we saw that they bought less stuff. So that was huge for us because it was kind of counterintuitive. We thought, with the smaller images, people would kind of get through the experience more quickly, they'd buy more things. And we actually saw that the opposite was true, and this was a huge insight for us. So how do we explain that? Well, the saying is a picture is worth 1,000 words. So as we shrank the image size, we took information away from our users. We made it harder to actually purchase something. We made them have to click into each of the individual items to get the detail that they would otherwise get from the search results page. So huge, huge breakthrough for us. And again, talking about this continuous learning culture, we didn't just stop there. We could have said, okay, great, we learned that smaller images are not better. End of story, we're done. But instead, we kept pressing forward. So not only did we not go with the smaller images, we started going the other direction. We started looking at bigger images. But we didn't stop there either. So now I'll show you what the search page looks like now. The previous version was from a few years back. So today's search page, you'll notice, first off, much larger images. And we tested our way into finding the right size where users actually kind of maxed out. Like you go too big, eventually it makes it harder to purchase things as well. So huge. But in addition to that, and this will be a little bit hard to see on the screen, there's a, uh-oh. Can we go, sorry, can you put the presentation back on? Thanks. Oh. So I guess I'll just kind of point to it. There's this new red text in a lot of the different pages now. So this is the search results page, but now we've put some red text next to some of the listings. So again, thinking about the image, picture is worth 1,000 words, the original insight was people want more information on the search results page to help them make the decision. So we didn't just stop with the images. We also started pulling in more actual live site data and surfacing that to users. So creating that transparency, we put little markers next to the listings to let them know how many other people were engaging with the listing and in what ways they were engaging with the listing, how many people had bought it, how many people were watching it, to help them, again, filter through the inventory and make their decision more quickly. So huge insight for us. And again, we tested our way to figure out which signals were important, where to surface them, how to surface them. And again, we didn't just stop with the search results page. We kept going. So on this example, now this is the item detail page. So if you click into one of the watches from the Apple Watches from the previous page, now you're on the item detail page getting ready to make the purchase. And we found, again, we put some of these red signals up on here in different places to indicate how many people had looked at the item recently, how many had sold, some details about the seller. And we packaged that information in a way to make it more efficient for the user so that they can make the decision more quickly, more efficiently. And again, all of these things, we tested our way into it, and we learned that each of these were helping users buy more stuff, which is a win for them and a win for us, and a win for our sellers as well. So why is this so important? So I want to talk about kind of the before and after adopting this kind of test and learn culture. So in the before world, the graph on the left kind of shows what business impact of all the different changes we might make over time might look like. And this is across policy decisions, pricing decisions, product launches. But without an understanding of the impact of each of those individual decisions, there's a strong bias within the organization to launch and roll out whatever we've worked on. So if we work on a pricing project, we'll have a bias to roll it out. If we work, engineering teams are working really hard to develop new features, we're going to want to roll that out to our users. And what we actually found was that some of the things were helping, some of the things were hits, and some of the things were actually hurting a little bit. Some of them were misses. That was in the before world. Now as we move to this world of test and learn and being able to evaluate each change using analytics, we found that each change now was incrementally helpful. We were able to iterate on features that were previously would have just been a miss and turn them into wins. And we started stacking those on top of each other. And that shift in approach for the organization was transformational. That led to a turnaround in our business back in the 2010 era as we really developed and implemented this test and learn culture. So hugely impactful for us, and I'm sharing these examples so that it can be helpful for you, and you can see that this isn't just to drive some interesting insights, it actually can drive and deliver better business impact. So I want to close on just to kind of recap what we talked about. So we started out by saying our customers are smarter than us. But again, using analytics, we can listen to them and they can help make us smarter. And just again, to kind of reiterate the kind of 4 pillars of analytics, it's framing the problem effectively. It's using our data, whatever data we have efficiently, doesn't have to be big data. Third is, sorry, spacing a little bit. Third is driving actionable insight. And again, making sure that the insights that we're driving from our analytics capabilities are changing decisions, helping drive decisions forward. And then finally, developing this continuous test and learn. You're not trying to solve for one specific point in time. You're trying to build a new path for the organization. So if you put all that together, that will give you a good analytical culture. You add the right tools into that, and then introduce a bias toward action, a willingness in the organization to incorporate those insights and change the decisions. All of that can deliver massive business impact and be very transformational for your business. So hopefully that gives you some food for thought and can help you out as you're starting your own journeys down the path of analytics. And I'll close there. Thank you very much. All the best.